welcome to Tech 3D. If the audio sounds terrible in this video, by the way, I do apologize. Worse than it normally is. I've got a history of terrible audio. I'm in a room that's built like a church with a vaulted ceiling. It's a perpetual issue that I face, but I'm recording on a laptop. The audio sounds compressed for some reason. I don't understand why. There's nothing I can do about that, but I do apologize. But yeah, look, I'm covering the Elgato Stream Deck today, mate. If you're familiar with the channel and this device, you'd be forgiven for wondering what the hell I'm doing with it. I think the guy from Corsair was thinking the same thing when he was sending it over. But yeah, look, it's a device. It's a button box aimed at content creators who stream games online. It's a productivity booster for streamers to Twitch and YouTube. They press buttons on the button box and graphics appear. Audio happens, right? Transitions happen and it assists them with streaming games online. This is the second take I've made of this video. I've already put it onto YouTube. It was about to make it live, and then I thought, you know what, I want to add more stuff to the AutoCAD section, so I'm doing it again. But in that time, I've looked it up, and some people have actually attempted to do this already, so I'm not the first for that. And it kind of comforted me in a way, because I thought, you know, whenever I try and do stuff like this, I get a bit of kickback from people going, these devices are not for you. Leave them alone. They're not for you. Well, actually, do you know what? I can make this work, right? Other people have tried it. There's a demand for stuff like this. If it works, I'll give it a shot and I'll see if it happens. And it happened, right? It did happen. So yeah, look, the Stream Deck is about 140 quid, and it doesn't compete with 3D Connection devices, but there's inevitable crossovers with functionality on certain 3D Connection devices. So let's just quickly take a gander at that. I don't want to waffle on too much about this, but just to cover this and get it out of the way. 3D Connection have a flagship device called the Enterprise, which in its most basic form is a button box, right? It's got 12 customizable buttons along the top with a screen that tells you what the buttons do. But that's kind of where the similarities end. 3D Connection is very specialized towards CAD applications in terms of its software and its driver support. It's also got a 6 degrees of freedom cap on it, but it's also 450 quid, which, you know, I want to make a separate video talking about the value proposition of 3D Connection and where they're at right now as a business. But, you know, it's been nearly 6 years since they released this, right? This is my review. May 2016, right? And they've released nothing since then in the Space Mouse line. That hasn't been a rehash of something they've already done. They're procrastinating hard. They're resting on their laurels hard. So yeah, 450 quid for that is a tough ask. But look, the Stream Deck's not competing with this, but because it's a button box, if all you're after is buttons that do stuff, then, you know, the Stream Deck competes with that element of that. But the cap, the driver support, the Stream Deck shouldn't ever. It's got no business competing with that area of that. So I just wanted to cover that bit. Okay, the Stream Deck itself, 140 quid for the 15 key model, which is the one I've got. I've got the Mark II version, which has an updated chassis sort of stand. And then you've got the 32 key version, which is sort of super major league productivity, man. It's mental. I mean, that's still half the price, you know, even more than that, of the 3D Connection device. You could even buy the singular 6 degrees of freedom cap navigator and be quids in with a Stream Deck. But yeah, okay, let's hop on over to AutoCAD. I'm going to use AutoCAD as an example because I think shortcuts and macros and stuff are more beneficial in AutoCAD than they are in 3D CAD. That's where I see the value with something like a Stream Deck. Yeah, you can use this with Inventor and Fusion 360 and SolidWorks and Creo and all those. Absolutely, it's just shortcuts. It's activating shortcuts and multifunction keyboard macros. But I think AutoCAD is more relevant than the others. So let's take a look at the Stream Deck software, right? I've got a camera pointing at it, which I'm hoping doesn't overheat and run out of battery. But that's my default profile. That's just on all the time. Now, these are just a couple of shortcuts that I use on a regular basis. They activate and open programs. That's it. So AutoCAD, VRED, and Inventor. That's my screen recording software. XSplit. Sizer is like a little program that I use when I need to dock programs at the top left for screen recording. Premiere Pro, etc. But you can have different profiles for different programs. So what you can do, like for example, when AutoCAD opens, you can tell it to switch to an AutoCAD profile, which gives you a completely different set of buttons. And you're not just limited to 15 buttons either. So if you're thinking, well, Christ, you're going to run out of buttons quickly then, nah, not at all, mate, because you can grab and drag a folder onto there, go into the folder, and you've got 14 more buttons. So I can now drag tons more buttons onto there, right? Go up one level, create another folder there, go into that folder, and I've got 14 more buttons. And you can have folders in folders, right? And then you can have folders in folders in folders. There's an insane amount of flexibility. It's mental how much real estate and flexibility you've got with the Stream Deck, man. It just blows 3D Connection out of the water with regards to like how many buttons and macros and shortcuts you can create. So that's the default profile. But yeah, for AutoCAD, let's create a new profile. Edit the profiles. We'll call this one the AutoCAD profile. And you can tell it to open up AutoCAD. For some reason, it's not detecting that AutoCAD's open in the background. So you can browse to the AutoCAD exe file, which is there. And that'll say to the Stream Deck, whenever AutoCAD opens, switch to the AutoCAD profile. And then when AutoCAD closes, it'll go back to your default profile, which is quite handy. So I'm going to delete this little welcome icon. And this is my AutoCAD profile. So on the default profile, I've got folders within folders and folders after folders. But then with the AutoCAD profile, it's like an entire new desktop, right? It's like an entire new set of folders and folders and folders and folders. It's mental amounts of flexibility, man. So how do you customize AutoCAD and what can you do with it? Right. So 3D Connection, that's another advantage they've got. They give you a default profile with line, polyline, arc, array. All of them are already done. The icons are already in there. You can just use it, right? But you've got to do a bit of setting up of this, which is fine. It's not that hard. So let's start with something simple, right? This is not a tutorial, by the way. I'm just kind of showing what I need to show. The line command, keeping it simple, which would be L, then return. That starts the line command in AutoCAD. So to do that in the Stream Deck and create a button on your Stream Deck for that, you just replicate what I've just done, L, then return. So you go back to the Stream Deck, and then there's a number of different ways you can do this. You can create a multi-action function, which would be hitting the hotkey L, then the hotkey return. Or, this is something 3D Connection can't do. And again, I'm not going to do like a hit piece on 3D Connection's macro functionality, which is dreadful. It's awful how bad 3D Connection's macros are, because they can't do half of this. But you can create just a text button and just say press the L key and then press enter after the message. It's that easy. And then you can call this like the line command. Now by default it puts a bit of text on the button, which is very difficult to read, but you can take that text off and then add your own icon, because you don't want just T there, do you? You want the line icon from the ribbon bar there. So what a lot of people have done, I've seen, is they've went to the ribbon bar and they've screen capped like the icon. Don't do that. Don't do that. Go to AutoCAD's help page and then do a search for like the line command, and you'll find the help article for the line command. And in most command articles, it'll have a PNG file, and then just save them to your desktop. And you can see I've done that for like just create a bank of all the icons you think you're going to use. Save that, and then just do that for like, I don't know, like rectangle, right? And then to draw a rectangle, well, there's the rectangle icon. It's as simple as that. Just do that. Just search for something you think, like the layer command. Search for layer. You'll find a page with talking about layers, and you'll find the layer property manager icon somewhere. Save that to your desktop, and all of a sudden you've got a massive bank of icons you can drop onto your Stream Deck, and they're all PNGs with transparent backgrounds. And then you go drop, set from file, line, douche, done. And that's it. And that's what I've got in my I'll show some B-roll of it now. All the icons set. It looks absolutely class. So that's done. That's it basically, mate. It's that fast. It works an absolute treat. So we can go back to the software. We can create another button. Again, just text. And I want it to draw a rectangle, right? REC. And we can call this the rectangle command. Press enter after the message. Set from file. And then this is going to be the rectangle function. It's that easy. It's that easy. I've still got the text on that icon. Actually, I need to take that off. But there's other things you can do, like zoom extents, which is typically Z enter, E enter, or I'm sure some people would tell me the real pros use spacebar. But like that would be, I would suspect. I mean, you could do that as a multi-action, or you could do that as text. There's no real. No, that would be multi-action, because you are executing two different things. So for zoom extents, multi-action, And then within the multi-action sort of trigger, you would do text, which would be Z, press enter, and then E, press enter. And then this is zoom extents. And then we can change the icon, go back up one level, come to this icon, set that from file, and then this would be zoom extents. Done. Right, so if I zoom in now, press that, zoom extends. it's so satisfying. It really is. Zoom extends. Douche. Right. So that's your zoom extends. There's all kinds. Honestly, mate, you can do anything you can type into the command line, you can automate here, like switching between paper space or layouts and models. Paper space, Christ, does anyone call it that anymore? Like for just to switch between paper space would be dash. How do you switch between paper space? It would be layout and then set and then layout 1, right? So you can go back to your software and then you can create a multi-action button. The first one would be a bit of text, and then that would be typing in layout, press enter, and then set, press enter, and then we'll jump into model space for this one. I wonder, do you know what? No, I'm going to delete that because there is a multi-action switch. I wonder if this is going to work. This is an either or. This is an either or. So can we do, right, layout. I haven't tried this before. Enter. Set, enter. So this one would be model space, but then the second one would be layout. Wait a minute. Layout. Spell Neil. Layout. Oh, wow. Set. Press enter, and then this one would be layout 1. This would be class if this worked. Right, so then we've pressed this model space. Oh, that is class. That is class. So it's a switch. So the first time you press it, it goes to model space. And the second time you press it, it goes to layout 1. Delicious. That is absolutely delicious. Oh, mate. Other things you can do, right? Insert blocks. Anything, man. Honestly, anything. So you can come into a drawing, right? You can query. How do you query the blocks as a B edit? Christ, I'm going back years here. Computer. So what's insert block -I, isn't it? So -I query. Oh, it's not a block name. How do you query block names again? -I question mark, isn't it? Right, there's one called computer. So yeah, you would do. That would be another multi-action because we're doing multiple functions. So the first one would be a bit of text, which would be -I for insert block. And then, yes, we can press enter after that. And then do you just type in -I computer and then press enter after that. That should work, shouldn't it? I should have a computer on the end of this. That's just inserting a block just like that, mate. That is awesome. What it won't allow you to do is whenever AutoCAD needs some manual input, like specifying the base point. Now you can type in, like if you've got predefined coordinates, then you can do that. But if you need to sort of manually click to specify like this, then yeah, you might be a bit stuck, but you would be on the 3D mouse as well. Oh, that is so good. That's so good. But another thing that I showed in yesterday's video, and it kind of caught me by surprise, and I had this massive sort of eureka moment, and I'm not going to replicate that and pretend like it's the first time I've done it now, is you can use the multi-action triggers to actually create objects. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say you can automate an entire drawing with this, but you can let your imagination run away with you here. Like, for example, let's come into another multi-action function, and let's start with a bit of text. That's going to draw a rectangle, right? It's going to press return. So after you've drawn a rectangle, what's the first thing that AutoCAD asks you to do? Well, it specifies the base point of the rectangle. So you can then type in 0, 0, 0, and then press return. After it's asked you to specify the base point of the rectangle, it then jumps into the dimensions of the rectangle, doesn't it? So you then type in, let's say 2,500, but you don't press enter, you tab into the next one, don't you? So we're going to do a hotkey of tab, and then we're going to put a bit of text, and then that'll be the length of the rectangle, and then another hotkey, which is going to tab out of the length, and then we're going to hotkey, which is going to be the pressing of return to finish the rectangle, and that should draw a rectangle from the base point 000 2500 by 5000. Hopefully, anyway. Oh, I've done that before, but it's just, yeah. Oh mate, it's so satisfying to see it happen. It really is. But the one thing I haven't been able to figure, I haven't tried yet, but I haven't sorted out like the direction of the rectangle. So if your cursor's like on either side, it'll draw the rectangle based on where your cursor is, because it's not, I didn't dictate the direction of the rectangle, right? I can't remember how to do that. I haven't looked into it. I'm sure there's probably a variable somewhere in the rectangle command. It might be it won't be rotation. I can't remember how you tell it which orientation for the rectangle in, but think about that, right? You can use the Stream Deck to actually create objects, punch in dimensions, and then automate that. You could then use the next bit, which would be copy previous, but you are limited because AutoCAD always, right? So if you say draw rectangle and then you do copy previous, right? You can automate that, no problem. But then AutoCAD always asks for a base point. And usually you're picking a base point which is snapping to an object. You're gonna struggle to do that with the Stream Deck, right? You know, because you're usually snapping from an object and going somewhere like relative to that object. If you can use the 000 as a base point to copy objects to make a new drawing, mate, you're in for an absolute treat then, because you can just start arraying stuff all around the drawing based on 000. And then you could automate a hell of a lot. But yeah, that's insanely powerful. But yeah, the rest of the Stream Deck, man, you can put in the layer properties manager, match properties, express tool functionality. You could probably even call up your own scripts and stuff in here, right? Like there's, you know, open programs is on here. This is something that you can just choose any file, right? You can call up a batch file or I don't know, like a Lisp file or something, or I don't know, whatever, right? Any file can just be called up onto the Stream Deck. It's so powerful. And then if you can tweet, right? I'm not a tweeter, but you can just like tweet straight from you. You've got websites, right? If you find that you go onto websites on a regular basis, supplier websites, purchasing websites. If you've got ISO, like BSI standards websites that you reference on a regular basis, not on a regular basis, then you can just put those in here. It's not going to show them on the Stream Deck, obviously. I don't know what get request in the background means. Let's see what that does. No, I don't know what that does. But it'll just bring up the brings up the web page. I'm curious to know what that request in the background thing does. But yeah, that'll just calls up web pages. Tons of stuff, mate. A lot of the functions in the Stream Deck is just not relevant to us, but you know, like soundboards and Twitch Studio and stuff. You'd not find yourself doing that. There is a thriving, well, I wouldn't say a thriving community at all. There's actually not as many plugins on here as I thought there would have been. They're obviously limited to, you know, hyper focused on Twitch and YouTube and stuff. But there's a lot of RGB stuff in, like IQ and Philips Hue, and one of the ones that I would highly recommend you get is HW Info. I've already installed this. This is insanely powerful. It lets you show your sensors from your PC or your laptop on the Stream Deck, and I that's something that I'm absolutely using. And I've already set this up. So at the bottom right, I've got a folder with an HW Info icon on it. When I jump into that, you can see it says please launch HW Info 64. Now there is entire tutorials surrounding how you make this work, because it's quite easy to do, but it does need a bit of guidance. So the HW Info sensors will only work when you've got HW Info actually running in the background. So this button here that I've got set up just launches the XE, just like it did for my AutoCAD and my Inventor button. So I press that button down there, and then that starts HW Info in the background, and then my sensors will start working. But these sensors, they're just like taken from my laptop, right? Like what's the CPU load, how much RAM's being used, what my CPU temperature is. And you basically, the way this works, right, you just go to the HW Info button, drag it on, and then it just references all of the sensors on your laptop or your PC. And you can just say to it, right, I want to keep a tabs on what the CPU power draw is of my laptop. How much power is my laptop pulling at any particular point in time? And then you can just say CPU power, and that's like literally it. It reads that sensor. It's a real-time plot of that sensor. And then whenever you've got something running in the background, you can see it real time, pulling away. It's really, really useful. Really useful. And then you can just sort of jump in. You can load up your AutoCAD profile if you want to, or you can just jump into your HW Info stuff and keep tabs on your sensors as stuff's happening. That, mate, for me, just blows 3D Connection out of the water. I would choose to use this over an enterprise any day of the week. If I needed a cap, which I don't, because I don't model day in and day out, but I would have probably a singular little, maybe a Space Mouse wireless, just a little singular cap with the 2 buttons on either side, and a Stream Deck. And I'd still be spending half as much as I would have done on an enterprise, because that thing's 6 years old. And this is just infinitely more functional and offers a ton more stuff than that ever could. But, if you value the context-sensitive application switching buttons and the pre-created profiles, then, there is value to that as well. So, but anyway, yes, my camera's just died, so I'm going to knock that on the head there. It's just as well because I am done. We're 22 minutes in. I think that is probably about enough. Thank you very much for watching this. If you are interested in a Stream Deck, I'll put my affiliate links to Amazon in the description of this video. Like I say, I'm not the first to try and pitch this for AutoCAD, and it can be used for Inventor, for Fusion 360. I didn't show that in this video because I'm trying to not make my videos sort of 40 odd minutes long, and 22 minutes is already way too long for a YouTube video. But yeah, it's just the same principle. Shortcuts, find out what's useful for you. Some people may have found what I've shown here is not useful for them, but hopefully it just sparks something in your imagination that you can see what I've done, and then twist that to what would be useful for you. But yeah, links in the description if you want to make a purchase. If you do, it'll support the channel. I'll get a commission at no extra cost to you. Thanks very much. Get subscribed if you want to see more stuff like this. I might do more videos which are specific to applications now that I've done this sort of high level coverage of the Stream Deck. So get tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much. Doodles.